Hi everyone, Alexander Thorek here, and today I have a great guest, Beverly Byron King. She's excellent expert in helping people with and organizations with mental health issues. She's a great consultant and expert in that field, so she can help you to understand how you can deal with those issues if they arise. Hi, Beverly.
Hi there.
So I'd like to talk today about leadership and specifically about why leaders don't understand leadership. Some of them, they just understand management and they practice management. And I think because they practicing management only, they have some challenges that connected with mental health issues that people become overwhelmed and frustrated. They feel that, okay, this manager, he doesn't care about me, so I just don't want to work here. I don't just
Mhm.
So this is one of the reasons what I realized. But you can explain this issue or this point from your side because you're expert in this field. So I'd love to hear you, and our listeners would love to hear you also.
I think when we talk about leadership, and especially when it comes to mental health and resiliency and engagement and culture, I think what gets in the way is they get stuck in the operational and they don't connect with the people. And so it is about understanding the challenges that people are facing, and it's about inspiring them, it's about giving them hope, it's about showing them the future and the way forward. And so I think I do a whole program on dealing with difficult people and toxicity within our organizations, and in many cases we get frustrated with the people issues because we're not necessarily well trained or well versed in how to deal with issues of conflict and disengagement. We feel like people should just know how to take care of themselves and get along and do all of those things. And in a lot of cases, as leaders, we get stuck dealing with the surface issues and we don't deal with the issues behind the issues. And it's easy to say, well, that person's stressed, they're not good for the job. It may have nothing to do with their skills and their abilities. It may be dealing with all of the other things that are happening around them, that people aren't getting along, that there's a lack of trust, that there's a lack of collaboration, there's a lack of direction and vision. People don't feel valued or appreciated. And when we don't understand that all of those pieces need to be there, then we end up just focusing on the symptoms, not necessarily getting to the root cause.
Okay, yeah, I see what you say. And I'm agree that based on that approach of different leaders, or I would say different managers, because managers, they're not leaders, they just manage processes. And because
Mhm.
they manage processes only, they have this mental health issue, and people uh, basically what I've seen in different organizations, they have a huge percentage of burnout because of that, because
Yeah.
they even don't know how to manage processes properly. And look what happened during the COVID. They just didn't know how to manage processes. And we don't talk about leadership, but leadership and management, they always go together.
Yeah.
And yeah,
It's about showing the way. And I think, you talked about burnout and what's behind that. Well, it's workloads, it's feeling disconnected, it's not having support people around you, so it's a leader builds a team. A leader just doesn't have people doing stuff. A leader is able to build a team where that team can trust and they can count on each other, they can appreciate each other. It's about having workloads that are realistic, and so that means you have to have conversation. It's not just about widgets, it's not just about getting things done, but and that workload may change depending on time of year or other things that are going on. When we talk about burnout, are you able to delegate in a way where people feel like they have control over what they do and how they say it? Part of leadership is also about showing appreciation. People need to feel respected for their time, their energy, their contribution, their education, their years of experience. And a leader is able to put the right person in the right job at the right time. So COVID's a great example. Sometimes, prior to COVID, they may have been the right person at the right time, but maybe they weren't the right person at the right time during COVID. And so we saw where people were the wrong fit, which created more stress and lack of collaboration and all of those pieces. So a leader is one that has that vision, is able to make the connections, is able to have the hard and tough conversations to explore. So it's not just about process, it's about being able to connect at a deeper level so that you know where things are going or what problems or issues that might be coming along.
Yes, absolutely. So let's say as a conclusion of the first question, people just need, or leaders just need to understand that leadership is not management. And if they want to be more effective, they just need to learn leadership.
Yeah,
And
they need, and leadership for me is about connection.
yeah, absolutely.
Mhm.
It's all about connection and relationships.
Mhm.
Because as soon as we become closer to our people and we understand their values, we connect to them, we just take into consideration their dreams, passion, motives. We need to understand what drives them.
Mhm.
And then we lead people from that position, not from the position where we are. We just need to come to those people and understand them and connect to them.
Mhm.
So I think this is a very huge topic that we can discuss hours and hours. But
Absolutely.
yeah. And also I'd like to ask you, just continuing our conversation, that I've seen in one organization here, we had percentage of burnout was 80%.
Mhm.
80% is huge corporation. And I just surprised how those leaders in that organization, they cannot manage all of the situation that they have in that organization. But I'm sure that they have smart people with
Mhm.
nice personality, just amazing personality. And they have smart managers who manage processes really well, just PhD with PhD degree, with master's degree, and all of the stuff. And I just surprising how come they have such a huge percentage of burnout, 80%.
Mhm.
It was during COVID, now it's less. But anyway, people, they just go on sick leave, they just don't want to stay in that organization because they understand that system just was created to protect the person during any little issue that person can have in terms of mental health. And some people, they play with it, they use the system. So
Yeah.
leaders also need to realize, to understand how to lead people, because even those people who want to use system, they shouldn't do that. If they use system in the wrong way, leaders should learn that situation and understand how to manage those situations more effectively.
Mhm.
This is what I've seen in different organizations. What do you think?
Yeah. So absolutely agree. When we look at burnout has definitely increased. It's about 15% higher than it was prior to the pandemic, even now. And so we say, kind of global rates are about 40% of people are experiencing moderate to severe burnout. About 79, 80% are experiencing at least some of the symptoms of burnout. And as you mentioned, some industries are going to be much higher, some industries are going to be much lower, some countries are much higher, some countries are much lower. But what we know is that it's higher than what it was prior to the pandemic. And it's easy to say as leaders, we should be able to step up and help everybody, but they are burnt out as well. And I think it's because the expectations are not realistic. And so for leaders, for me, burnout is about losing your fire. It's
Yes.
about losing that spark. It's about being frustrated and tired out and worn out. But it's about not having any energy left in the tank to be able to do the things that you need to do. And so I think COVID's a great example because people pushed and pushed and pushed to get things done, to meet the challenges, to serve their customers, to survive as a business. And now we're kind of on the other side of that, but there's still issues. There's still supply chain, there's still recession, there's still all of these things going on, and people don't have the reserves to be able to handle it. I think as leaders, it's recognizing how do we, one of the things I talk about is that as a leader, you have to take care of yourself. You have to be able to, eat right, sleep right, exercise, have other parts of your life that give you motivation and satisfaction, because that's what gives you the energy back to deal with all the issues. And you can't lead your team, you can't support your team if you have nothing left in it for yourself.
Yes.
So then as leaders, when we've taken care of ourselves, then we can step up and we can say, okay, so what do we as an organization, how do we handle these challenges? It is about some of the processes in place, like as managing, do we have the right processes? Do we have the right people? But how do we make sure that it's okay for people to take care of themselves? For people to say that they're struggling, for people to say that they're not feeling their best. And when they do that, how do we handle it? Do we ostracize that person? Do we exclude them? Do we see them as being a failure in some kind of way? Or are we saying, hey, it's okay. Not everybody can be 100% every day. And, if you're not, we'll support you on that. It's also, if people are trying to scam the system, why are they doing that? What's allowing that to take place? Maybe they've tried really hard and it didn't make a difference and nobody recognized them. And so why would I keep on trying? Why would I keep putting out 100% if it's not going to matter to anybody, or I'm just put down because there's all kinds of unfairness in the organization. Somebody else gets a promotion just because they know somebody else, or whatever the case. So you have to, it's not an easy fix. You have to really look at all of those things that may be going on that allow that person to be able to do that in the first place. Maybe they've learned it from other people within the organization. If so-and-so can get away with it, why can't I? And so it is about going back to, one of the things you mentioned was values. Have you defined what your values are? I talk to organizations. Have you defined what it means to live those values? And have you defined what it means to not live those values? And that's even a more important part than defining what it means to live them, because you can't hold somebody accountable if you haven't defined what that looks like. And so if we say it's not okay to do that, and we've defined what that means, then I can say, okay, like these are our values and this is what you're doing. And it doesn't meet those values. So you either need to change your behavior or you need to find another place to work. And
Yes.
so it's about being kind of examining all of those pieces.
Yes, absolutely. And what I realized that a lot of organizations who want to change, but they're not willing to change.
Yeah,
They
because it's
have
hard.
yeah, it's not easy. And also what I've seen that when any organization they seeks greatness, often they find some aspects of their organizational culture that need change. And very often it means they have some blind spots that are not visible from the inside of the organization. But this situation requires, I think, coaching and consulting intervention, not just training sessions that they have inside of the organizations. What do you think?
Even assessments, many organizations do an engagement assessment of their employees. One of the companies that I work with, one of the assessments that they have is not just how engaged are people and how satisfied are people, but how close to burnout are they and how close to leaving are they. Those are important measurements, because people can say that they like their job or that kind of thing, but if you have a department that is ready to walk out the door, you have a leadership issue. You have to step in. And so sometimes those are the blind spots. If it's just about engagement, you can write it off to different things. But if we talk about burnout and if we talk about wanting to leave, then you've got to look at the organization and what's causing that. And it's not an easy fix. We talk about culture created whether you want it to be or not. And so if you are not purposeful about creating the culture that you desire, you're going to have a culture that maybe is not the one that you desire. And that takes work to change. And it takes work for not just the CEO, not just the leadership team, but from the bottom all the way through. But your values are your rules of engagement. Your values are what aligns people. Your values are what helps people to make decisions.
Yes, absolutely. But all cultural transformation, what I realize, it just mostly should be managed from, as I say, from upstairs, from top down. Because when people, let's say when business owners, they hire you or myself and they ask us, okay, just help us to to transform our culture, and we start working with their people, with mid management, with frontline employees, so people understand their values, people understand their vision, uh, tasks, expectations, and so on, and they little by little they start changing their behaviors. But as soon as executives don't act same way,
Mm-hmm.
our
Yeah.
jobs will be ruined. So this is why I said, sorry, this is why I said that I think that we should start from the top.
Yeah. When we talk about values, one of the problems I see is that the values are created at the top, but values have to be, uh, somebody will, it's almost like they pick them out of a hat. They sit in a room, the kind of the leadership team, and they pick out, 6 out of a hat and go, okay, those are them. That's not okay. Those values discussions need to start right at the at all levels of the teams, and talk about, okay, so like, what is our culture? What is it like? What would we like it to be like? What would the values look like if we had an ideal culture? And so it has to be all the way through the organization. But then we hold every person from, the top on down to those values. So you can't say that you have a value of respect within your organization and you disrespect. One of the things I saw during COVID was that people, they have it as their mission, vision, and values. Our people are our most important resource. And
Yeah.
I can't tell you the number of people that have that as, on their placard somewhere. And then they treated their people terribly during COVID.
Yeah. Yeah.
And now some companies, they stepped up, the leadership team stepped up, they checked in, they made sure people had what they needed to have, they created team. But then other companies, they were terrible. And yet they had, our people are our most important resource. And so you live your values not only when times are good, but when times are challenging
Yes.
and chaotic, and you don't, like, your values are your North Star. That's what you can always count on and go back to.
Yes. Because crisis always just push best out of people and push worst out of people.
Out of people.
And when it happens, so we can see who is who.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And Beryl, I just wanted to ask you, could you tell me, please, what did you learn based on your experience during COVID and after COVID, how cultural transformation was going through um, through your training? So when you help people, so what outcomes and what changes did you see in those organizations?
Yeah. So I think, a number of organizations really took notice of mental health and mental illness issues. I can say the one good thing that came out of COVID was that it actually pushed mental health conversations uh, at least 5 to 7 years ahead. We always had like Bell Let's Talk Day. So we had these celebrations prior to COVID, but we weren't really having deep conversations, especially leaders having these conversations with their teams. And COVID forced that, people were having, because we could see how many people were struggling and the challenges, and as leaders struggling as well. So it definitely moved those conversations forward. I hope that continues, that it wasn't just okay during COVID. It's okay now to have those conversations when
Yes.
we feel challenged and overwhelmed.
Yes.
And as leaders, we should be doing that check-in. Do I know how my team responds under stress? And how each of those different members respond, because they're going to all respond differently. So do I know them well enough to know when things are off?
Yeah.
The other thing that I noticed coming out of COVID is that prior to COVID, I was doing presentations on dealing with difficult people. And then for the first half of COVID, nobody was asking for those kinds of presentations. And now it is my number one requested conversation and presentation and training, because people are tired, people are worn out, their patience has run low, and everything is getting on everybody's nerves. And the toxicity is so high in our organizations. And as leaders, we would ignore it. People are just tired, people are just stressed, and we ignore it, we let it go, they'll figure it out. But it's growing and growing, and now it's become ingrained. And now what do we do with it? And so for me, dealing with organizations, it has been about going in and usually it starts off with, we need to fix somebody who's negative or difficult. But it's so much bigger than just fixing somebody. It's what's allowed that to happen in the first place.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I'd like to ask you, what would you recommend to business owners and business leaders to focus on in their organizations?
I could focus on. So it would not be just one thing. And so I have a program that I call, it's based on the 10 essential needs. What is it that our teams need in order to be engaged, satisfied, productive, to bring out the best in them? And as leaders, it's being aware of what is it that our teams need. It's everything from respect and appreciation. It's having the right tools to get the job done. It's building a supportive group and a place where people can count on others. And it's also one that's not often recognized, but it's hope. Many people are told that hope is not a business strategy. And I absolutely disagree. Hope is absolutely a business strategy, but it's not whimsical. It's not just wishing. Hope for me is strategic. And so it's about having goals. It's about having energy to meet those goals. And it's about the creativity to find the different pathways to get there, because we know it's never going to be a straight line. There's always going to be changes and challenges. But a good leader is one that can provide that hope, that can shine that beacon of hope for their team to say, I don't know how we're going to get there, but we're going to get there because I have the right people doing the right jobs, and we've done it before and we can do it again. To me, that's hope. And that's really what the role of a leader is to be able to shine that for their team.
Yeah, I see. So much values.
Thank you.
Thank you, Beverly. Thank you for so much values you just added to people. And I think that listeners, when they will listen to this podcast, and especially to your speech, they will realize what the priority number one should be for them. And if they have some challenges, they can contact you. And could you tell, please, how they can contact you?
Well, you can find me at worksmartlivesmart.com.
Okay. I hope everybody just heard that. And once again, I'd like to thank you. Thank you for being here with us.
Welcome.
And hope to see you soon.
Thank you so much. And thanks these were amazing questions. So thank you for bringing that out.
Thank you.